Build relationships, not transactions.
I love it. Build a relationship. People don't buy from me because of my pricing. They buy because of relationships.
Yeah. When you're building relationships and it's not for that quick buck, this shit lasts forever. Spelling mistakes?
We said best Portuguese chicken, period.
Yeah.
And then we put a dot at the end of the period.
Okay.
Apparently, grammatically, you know, she didn't like it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Putting up a generic billboard it's cool, but
It's old school now, too.
When you come on Thursdays, game on.
Because we all get to decide.
The business, the way to shoot the video.
I'm sitting with my guest today. What's going on, Nick? What's happening, brother?
Good.
And I told you I'm going to probably butcher your last name, so why don't you just say it so I don't butcher it and then get your whole family tree pissed off at me?
Of course, it's my name's Nick Jongazma.
Awesome.
Super easy to say, John.
Jongazma. It is actually easy to say.
Yeah.
It's just spelt a little odd sometimes,
that's
right?
it, yeah.
I think that's it, buddy. I love the beard, by the way,
you.
man. I was
Thank
trying to grow it. It gets a little too itchy for me, and I start getting food lost in there.
At least you got the hair on the top.
I don't know how much
I'll donate some if you want to give some from the top.
I know.
You know?
Did you lose it like a long time ago?
Yeah, when
or-
I was like 18, 19.
Oh shit!
It's been
Okay,
going
okay.
for a while. Yeah.
I'm just starting to kind of lose it. My boys show me videos like on TikTok or Instagram. And I'm like, fuck, guys, you guys got the back of my head. I'm losing it now. The good thing is I don't care too much. You might be wondering why I got my boy Nick here. I say my boy because we hit it off right away, and I think we're gonna get to know each other a lot more through this podcast, but as well as in the future, because I like what you're up to, being a local Toronto entrepreneur, and for me that's important because I'm born and raised here. Actually on the north side of Toronto, an area called Rexdale, and to see other entrepreneurs now starting in the space of not just starting a business, but getting out there in the content world and pushing positive information. It's just that vibration. I'm always on that frequency. And I guess that's why we connected. We talked off air for like 3.7 seconds. We got a mutual friend as Nima Naz. He was just on the podcast, I think 2 episodes ago, maybe an episode ago. Another local guy as well. So it's just kind of cool to see, not that Toronto wasn't on the map by any means, but more and more people are coming out there. And then I did a little bit of a deep dive on you, and I noticed that you had a background in sales, which for me, I mean, you can't be on a frequency more than that with me, because
100%.
that's all I've ever done, Nick.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool. I think we'll get into that as well. But let's take it back a little bit, man. I know you lost your hair when you were 18, you said 18, 19, but who was Nick back then? Like if you were, you know, if I was in high school with you back then, like who was, like, were you the guy that, you know, was always trying to, you know, double up on a dollar? Were you like, did you have that entrepreneur stuff in you back in those times? Like,
so 100%. So high school was an interesting time period for me.
in Toronto, by the way?
In Toronto, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It was Richmond Hill actually.
Awesome.
So I was in high school, I was in the realm of being a DJ sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I started, but at the same time,
You got a little bit of the Khaled look, kind of like
I get that.
Yeah, I'm sure
I
you get that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I used to DJ. You'd always see me walking around the halls with like big Beats headphones and just always like bumping music, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, the entrepreneurial side was existing back then too, whether it was selling headphones or like iPhones or whatever the case may be, just to make some extra cash.
Just the people in the school.
Yeah,
They got it.
people in school.
Yeah.
So my whole high school career kind of wasn't supposed to shift into going into sales or even media or anything like that. I was actually going to be a chef.
Okay.
Yeah. To further go into that, my dad was actually a chef.
Okay.
So
Persian food?
No, he actually did Mediterranean.
Okay.
So that's kind of the realm that I wanted to go into. That's my whole high school career was supposed to be focused into that. I applied for college for culinary arts. I was number 31 of 30 for the program. So I was like, okay, you know what? It's clearly not going to happen. So let me look into something else.
Is that the Humber one?
I was actually no, George Brown.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I was going to go into pastry actually, and then I was going to shift into culinary. I don't know why pastry, but it was just cool at the time. I was like, you know, let me just do what everyone's doing culinary. Let me go into a different niche. But
So what year is this? Because I'm trying to put some
this
context.
is
You said
2012.
2012. Okay. So
Yeah.
whatever it is, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So decided to apply for radio broadcasting and journalism because I thought it was cool. I'm like, oh, people are on the radio. It's nice.
Is that the connection from the DJ stuff?
It's from the DJ.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So when I was DJing, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I can go into becoming an on-air host. Maybe kind of like tie in the whole DJing thing on air. So I'm like, you know what? I'll apply. I applied to Seneca and I applied to a college called Loyalist in Belleville. Belleville ended up accepting me, and I accepted the offer, but it was just super far, and I wasn't really feeling to go all that way because I'm like, I have to stay on res. It's not something I want to do. I accepted the offer. 2 days later, Seneca York accepted me, and then I canceled my offer and I shifted it. I said, okay, you know what? Let me just start this program for now until culinary opens up.
So that's still in the back of your mind. Like, I'm still going to go.
I was thinking, yeah.
And just out of curiosity, not to put Pops on the spot by any means, but was he pushing towards that?
No,
or
not
like,
at
was
all.
he
Actually,
okay.
the reverse. He's like, I don't want you to go into it because you're not gonna be able to spend time with the family, which kind of threw me off because my whole high school career was like, okay, I'm gonna go into becoming a chef, and I took food nutrition. I was getting like 98 in food nutrition. Like my food nutrition teacher loved me. I was tutoring other kids in class on how to cook at the age of like 17.
And you learned this from, I take it obviously from dad. Like,
Yeah.
did you go to his workplace? I'm just trying to picture this, right?
when
Like,
I
or was
a
it
kid
at home?
So I was born in Vancouver. So when I was a kid
Okay.
in Vancouver, he used to have a restaurant, and we were pretty much around the restaurant like all the time. So we'd come home from daycare, be in the restaurant, I'd be there. Just obviously him cooking at home. So it's just that's always how it's been, and always just sitting and having meals together as a family, and just he would always try to bring me in the kitchen with him. So it's just I was always around food.
Yeah.
I love food, as you can tell. Big guy too.
me
you know?
too, bro.
That's it.
Me
So
too.
we like food. That happened, and then I got accepted to Seneca York. This is around 2012. Ended up going into first semester. Thought, okay, you know what? I might continue this. I might not. I ended up falling in love with the program so much that I forgot about culinary.
Wow.
And I literally just kept at it. First semester into second. Ended up getting an internship. And that's kind of when I was confused. I didn't know if I wanted to do on air or if I wanted to do promo or production. And shout out to my mentor. He passed away actually earlier in the year, Jim Craig.
Yeah.
He was the one who kind of pushed me into sales. He's like, if you want to make money in this world, you got to do sales.
Yeah.
He's like, any other division in radio is not going to make you money. He's like, sales is an experience that you can use towards everything else.
So now he says that to you, and I just want to get into your head for a bit.
Yeah.
Are you like, what the fuck? Like, sales? Like,
Confused.
what?
Yeah.
Confused. But also, I guess the reason I'm asking is that most people think of sales as like being kind of sleazy, slimy, dirty.
Like used car dealership kind
Boom,
of.
right?
Yeah.
And I always tell the story. I worked at a dealership. I just didn't work in the used car section. I was in the new car sales, and it was actually the best experience I've ever had till this day, because it taught me so much. But this guy, Jim, your mentor, says to you, look, man, Nick, you got to get into sales. Like, did you push back right away? Because you never done, like, I know you were doing, like, you're kind of living that flip life in high school, but if you've never really done sales, that could be a daunting task, man.
For sure. I think I was 18 at the time. He told me this, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm open to it.
Okay.
And I took his course. I ended up doing really well, and then he had an advanced sales class as well. And this guy was like a seasoned sales guy. Like he started radio stations. He was like doing sales his whole life. He knew sales like the back of his hand. It was so natural, and it wasn't a pushy sales kind of way that he had it. It was more relationship based, and that's kind of where I learned it from. But
Right behind your head, BRNT. So this whole thing is the Jas Takhar success table.
Yeah.
Just kind of, obviously love Kobe. But I didn't know what the periodic table was, Nick, back in high school.
Yeah.
I had no fucking clue. I still don't. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to build my own success table. That one there that says BRNT stands for build relationships, not transactions.
I love it.
So like, I'm already like loving what you're saying. Continue, brother.
I love it. And one thing to touch on that, sales is, you got to always make sure it's not transactional. People don't like to be sold.
Yeah.
You got to make sure it's more customer service based. Transactional is just transaction. Who cares?
Yeah.
Build a relationship. People don't buy from me because of my pricing. They buy because of relationships.
Yeah.
They buy because they know who I am. They know I answer my phone, and we'll obviously get into that more. But
100%. But you know what? And just even going a little bit deeper there, man. Like, I have a funny feeling, and I'm sure the viewers or listeners are like, what the fuck does he actually do, like, Nick? And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to keep you on suspense for a bit. But if you started to sell cameras or mics or phones or mugs or tables, a lot of the people would go with you in that sense. Like, they would look into, like, if they were in the need of a mug, and that's what you're doing now, not that's what your business is, they would continue to buy from you. And that is what I'm trying to get across to my viewers and listeners that are salespeople, real estate professionals, is that when you're building relationships and it's not for that quick buck, this shit lasts forever. Like, not only will they continuously buy from you, their kids will. You know, I'm not old enough
Referrals.
yet where I got
Yeah.
the
Tons.
the grandkids buying from me, but I know that's coming down the pipeline. I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old that I also know that they'll be able to take my book of business, which is essentially like all the people that have ever done business with me, and they'll be able to, as long as they don't fuck it up and like start to become transactional, my kids are going to start eating off of that
sure.
relationship as well, right? So I think it's important for people to really understand, because I think that like on a surface level, salespeople get it, business owners get it, like, yeah, build relationships, I understand, and I shouldn't be transactional. But man, when they have an opportunity to make a quick buck,
For sure.
they don't take that step back and see it from, you know, that helicopter view, right?
For sure. And that's where your judgment you have to make the right judgment call. So, but we'll get more into
100%, 100%. So now you're going into, you know, you obviously took the advanced course now. Like you're actually liking. Do you start to have a passion for this now?
I started liking it.
Okay.
I'm getting more into it. And then at the moment, obviously when we're in college, we have to have an internship with a major radio station just to get hours to graduate. I applied at a bunch of stations: Virgin Radio, Kiss 92, 104.5, Chum FM.
Paid or unpaid?
Unpaid.
Unpaid.
Well, it depends. At the time, the stations weren't really offering paid, and
Yep.
if it was really hard to get into.
Yep.
None of them really accepted me except for Z103.
Okay.
Shout out to Z103.5.
Yeah.
So I did internship with them for about 2 months.
Yep.
On my, I think, 100th hour, they hired me part time, and I think I was in second semester. And funny enough, ended up becoming like a promo manager. And I started hiring the kids in my class to come in and be interns, and I was kind of their boss, sort of thing. So it worked out. Did that for about a year and a half, and then graduated college and was figuring out, okay, you know what? I don't know what I still want to do, because I got that whole partnership with Z103 then, and I was getting paid like very minimum wage at the time. Still young, so I did that for about
But
a year.
you're learning the ropes,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's what's important, right? That you realized that if you just were able to get your foot in the door, you would build some relationships with people.
For sure.
And you had a shot, not 100%. I'm sure even the Z103 didn't even say like, yeah, Nick, we're going to hire you for sure. It's just, here's your internship. Here's your, you know, you got to do your 100 hours or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But again, another great message, man, because more people, especially right now in the market that we're in, and I don't mean the real estate market, I mean the economy as a whole. Sometimes jobs are hard to come by, and a lot of people are like, fuck, I'm not going to go work for free.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
And that's
there's
the
no way.
mentality now. It's like a lot of these kids that are coming into it, they want to get paid and they don't want to do anything for free. It's like, you have to start from it. It's like, if you want to eventually get somewhere, you got to start from, like, I remember when
Fuck, me and you are starting to sound like those, like the old people
Yeah,
now,
right?
right? Like the fucking next generation. But it's,
they need to.
It's
Like
kind of
when I started at the time, the president of the company passed away a couple of years ago, but he literally would send me to go get coffee. And he had a drink specific to him that at that Starbucks, they knew his name. So I'd go and have to say it. And he wanted cinnamon at the right amount. And like, I have no problem getting it. It's a funny story now. And everyone's done it. Everyone at the station, even his son did it, which is the funny part. So everyone's done it. So it worked out. But did the internship. And funny enough, the guy who got me the internship was Tony Monaco, because I had a really good
I know the name, obviously.
yeah, everyone knows him. He's a legend.
For
So
sure.
he was the one who kind of got me into the whole internship program, but did that for about a year and a half. Then I realized I wasn't making money. I didn't want to do this anymore. And I was talking to a couple sales coordinators, and they're like, listen, we're not really hiring, but we'll put you in touch with the sales manager. And this is around, I'd say, November 2013, 14. I can't remember the dates. I gotta look at my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Had a meeting with the sales manager. He said, okay, why should I hire you? You have no experience. And I tanked the interview. Like, I completely tanked it.
What did you answer? Do you remember what you answered to that question?
I think I was like, I think like with the right guidance, I think I'll do like,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
be
this.
very
Yeah.
hardworking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like dressing in like a tie and a suit, like trying to get this job, but it's not
And I have
working
a
out.
funny feeling you're not a suit and tie guy.
No,
I'm
not
just
anymore.
making that
Not
call.
anymore.
Okay,
I used
yeah.
to, but not anymore.
Yeah.
No.
So
that
you're not
didn't-
yourself.
Yeah.
In this
No.
video, for sure.
Yeah. So
Tank it.
tank it, come back in 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I really want to do this. He's like, listen, you still don't have experience. He pretty much told me, go and come back.
Right.
I'm like, okay. He's like, go for a lap and come back. I'm like, okay, cool. So came back. He's like, listen, you still don't have experience, but we have a marketing seminar coming up in the next few weeks. If you can secure X amount of people to show up, just by cold calling, and eventually we can close, we can retouch this and see if, you know, we can do something. I said, okay, no problem. So I started going through my whole network of people.
But hang on. So this marketing seminar is Who's the target market for people to come
So
there?
so Z103 obviously they sell radio ads.
Okay.
So they were, at the time they had a marketing campaign where they were trying to bring on new clientele that's never ever spent money on advertising.
Got it.
At a reduced rate for packages that are long term.
Yep.
And they were just trying to.
So it's B2B sales.
Yeah.
You're not coming to like Clyde, like just in
No.
general public. It's
So it'd
not
be like,
B2C.
let's say, for example, you own
I own a real estate company.
a real estate company.
Great.
I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to say, listen, this is a seminar we have. We'd love to, go more in depth and just kind of drag you to come to the seminar.
Makes sense.
And then from there, kind of work on the next stages.
And the reason I asked that, Nick, is because you said you went into your network, essentially like your CRM or
yeah.
your phone, your contacts.
Mind you,
you had contacts like
So
that?
mind you, I was 19, but
Yeah.
I just built a bunch of people in my network. So
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily a CRM. It was like the guy who wrapped my car, the guy who tinted my car, my
Got it.
barber.
Business
my friend.
owners.
Yeah, business owners.
Got it.
So reached out to them. I ended up securing 25 people to this
Okay.
seminar.
What did you say when you called them?
So there used to be a guy, and he was my mentor, Mike. He used to sit right across the street from me, like right across the desk, and I used to listen to his calls. I'd be like, how is he doing it? So I'd write down notes just to like reiterate what he was saying. So I'd be like, hey, it's Nick from Z103. We have a seminar coming up. We'd love to have you. Can I write you down? Whatever.
Yeah.
And then secure 25 people. Again, everyone's dressing like kind of thing, like normal, casual, nothing too crazy. I'm coming in a suit.
Yeah.
And all my guys are coming in. These guys are not like the most professional business owner. It's like, the guy who owns a barber shop, he's pulling up like
100%.
baggy pants,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the whole sales team's just looking like, who is this guy? Like, why is he bringing these guys? Like,
Right.
who is this?
Right.
And I was the youngest at the time. So ended up, I think in my first week closing like 4 deals, like close to 100K.
So out of those 25 that
Out of
came,
those 25, I think, 4 of them closed.
just out of curiosity, because what we talk about, I have a real estate company and then I have a coaching company for real estate professionals. And so what we teach a lot about is putting on events, but to get people to get, I call it bums in the seats, you got to make phone calls. Send out a fucking email. 20% of people.
For sure.
You're a rock star if 20% of people open up your email in
course.
today's kind of day and age, right? But you got to make those phone calls. And you might not even remember, but to get the 20, you had 25 people who showed up. How many no's did you get?
To be honest. So at the time, I think I reached out to like 50 people I knew.
Perfect. So you hit still 50%. That's
50%,
high.
yeah.
That's pretty good. You were obviously quite
and a lot of
energetic.
them were confused because they're like, well, we see you doing events for C103. Why are you trying to get us to come to this? Like, what kind of MLM scheme is this?
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm like, no, it's not like,
Yeah.
And like, I'm always young. Like, I had no clue what sales was.
Yes.
So I'm like,
I
whatever.
have a funny feeling you were just energetic and passionate
Yeah,
on the phone.
that's all it was. Yeah. And just learning from other people around me and
So true.
just kind of building from there. And ended up having these guys come in. I think my last client that ended up signing, he literally told my sales manager, he said, the only reason I'm signing this is because of Nick. He's like, I have no interest in the ads. And my manager just looked at him and he's like, so why are you doing? He's like, I'm just doing this for Nick. And those guys are still around. Shout out to GTA Raps,
Yeah.
the 2 brothers. Those guys are solid. Like,
They rap cars.
Yeah, they rap
Yeah,
cars.
right,
But
all right.
those guys literally signed a contract and my manager pulls me aside. He's like, should I hire you? I'm like, it's up to you. He's like, okay, come to my office Monday morning. And I got a job there. And yeah.
See, look, I mean, I'm not sure if I was talking to one of my guys, right, behind the scenes. Shout out to Clyde, Clyde the Frenchman. I think I'm just going to, that's your thing now. And my boy, Bo, who I just call Bobo, been on my team for a bit. I think it was Bo I was talking to a couple of days ago. It could have been Nikki as well. Anyways, I was mentioning that as a freelancer on the side in terms of video editing and recording, a good idea is to just reach out to people and say, hey, like, I'll cut some videos for you for free. No cost. Here they are. It's done. You might need to do that for 50 people. 3 actually take a look at it, and then 1 person says yes. It's a way to reverse engineer a job for yourself, a paycheck for yourself. Similar to what your manager made you do. Like, bro, man, I'm not hiring you. You don't, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you can get some bums into the seats, you got your 25, 4 signed on. There's obviously revenues that you brought on. He would be an idiot, which he obviously wasn't, if he said, he obviously says to you like, hey, do you want me to hire you now? Smart guy, you know what I mean? So to everybody who's watching and listening, you can't be afraid to put yourself out there for free at the start, because if no one's paying you, and this might not land with a lot of you, and I mean not land with you because you might not like what I'm about to say. If somebody's not paying you for a job, that means you're bringing very little value to the marketplace. Your income for the rest of your life will always be determined by the value you bring to the marketplace. And so in that exact example that Nick spoke about, he brought the value and now is getting paid. What I was saying to Bo is, Bo, bring more fucking value. They like your videos. They're going to want to hire you. And I think was it you, Bo? It was you. And then didn't you send it to somebody and then somebody gave it to a friend? So, okay, perfect. Now I remember the story. And then now they want you to do a job. So you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to always work out like these two guys situations, but you got a good shot at it.
For
so
sure.
Now, okay, now you know, like, fuck, I can do this. You obviously hit a niche. I like what you did there as well. Like, it seems like, and not knocking the radio station by any means, but sometimes you can't just see the forest for the trees. They're not going after the raps guys and
At that time, no, they weren't.
Right?
It was still early, and
Yeah.
I'm a big car guy.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is start reaching out to all the car guys, or like the restaurants, or the music festivals, and
and radio stations have never reached out to them to do ads.
a lot of them, yeah. No, a
Oh,
lot of
so
them
you
had
had
no
a
idea.
nice. Okay,
Yeah,
I love.
So I had a niche, but then obviously as you were there longer, these older reps would obviously start to catch on, and now they're starting to go after them. I think 2013 was the first year I was actually doing sales for them, and I ended up winning the Sales Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
That year. And that award didn't exist, and they actually created the award, and we had a Christmas party, and they had a sales award, which was like given to like one of the big like senior reps.
Yeah.
And then right after, it's like, but wait, we have another one. It's like a whole video they put together, and it's like, oh, Sales Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I just started, and the VP at the time, she loved it. 'Cause she's like, oh, you remind me so much of myself. Yeah. Everyone just was working out, and I did so well my first year that they increased my budget crazy because they're like, oh, like this guy's performing, so let's just keep adding to his budget.
Sick.
The next year I see my budget, I'm like, well, okay, this is a little too much.
And sorry, when you say budget, do you mean like what like?
So we had yearly budgets that we had to hit.
Okay,
per
so
station.
more of a target then.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when I heard budget, I'm thinking like they're also giving.
So
you,
in radio term, they call it budget, but yeah, it's
Got
targets.
it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they have different, obviously the 4 Qs, and then they have targets and budgets that they need to hit. So you have, let's say Z103, you need to hit X amount of budget for it. The other stations you have to hit other. Now, obviously, there's digital and all these other components that they have, but you have to hit these budgets per month. And if you don't, obviously, like,
Sure.
yeah.
I mean,
So-
they'll give you a couple of months where you don't hit it, and off you
that's
go.
it.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 5 years, I'd say there. 2018, October 1st, 2018 came around. And that was funny enough, the day I got hired on October 1st as well.
Okay. So exactly
and-
to the day.
So what happened was it just wasn't, I was having a hard time with selling the station just because they only own one big power station. And when I used to go to meetings, there'd be like a Bell Media or Rogers where they own like multiple formats and they have all these stations, and I'm trying to compete with them. So it got a little difficult in that aspect, and I just wanted to change. So this is kind of where I was confused as to what I wanted to do next. I was like, maybe I'll go into car sales. Maybe, I have the sales skill. Let me just, go into something else. I ended up going to Dominican for, I got booked to DJ at like some festival there.
So are you at the same time of that you've been selling? You've also been kind of DJing on the side.
So I
as
used
well?
to
That's
actually,
more of a
I used to
passion
DJ
thing.
all the Z103 events actually.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
yeah, I kind of leveraged them both into it. Yes.
Love that.
So then when I went to Dominican, I'm like, okay, you know what? When I come back, I want to start an agency, and it's just going to focus just on radio. Ended up coming back, and right before I left, I gave my notice, and my manager was super upset. We were supposed to have a one-on-one meeting, and she's like, I'm like, listen, before we have this meeting, like, this is my paper. And she's like, why? Like, she got super upset, and I left, and everyone was shocked. Because I'm like, I didn't leave on bad terms because I still work with them now.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving, went to Dominican, came back, and it really got real. Because I'm like, okay, there's no money coming in now. I need to kind of figure it out. So started to put that together, started to reach out to new people, old clients, old friends, and it started to work out. And then I had an inquiry one day for a billboard. At the time, I wasn't selling billboards. I didn't even know what billboards were.
Yeah.
And I ended up selling this massive, it's called a super board. It's in North York at Young and Shepherd to like some artist.
Okay.
And we sold it. This was like massive. I'm like, wow, this is exciting. The client ends up backing out. Mind you, I didn't know back then contracts for last minute, you can't cancel contracts.
Right.
So I refunded this client.
Okay.
And the vendor's like, we can't refund you.
So hang on, because I don't know the billboard business, and so for everybody who's
yeah.
watching, listening, that's the business that Nick's in, and so we're gonna go into it. But so Young and Shepherd, are you propping up a new billboard, or
So
how
no,
does
there's
how does that work back then, or how does it work
so
now?
the billboards exist all over the city.
Okay.
All these ones are up, but we would be selling the space to someone.
Okay.
Now, we had a client who approached us who wanted this location. We ended up selling the location to them. But again, billboards weren't our business back then. It was mostly just radio and TV, just because that's kind of how we wanted to go into the play. But this is kind of how it's going to relay and how I got into it. But,
Sure.
We ended up selling this location. The client ended up wanting to cancel it just because the timelines weren't right. The vendor's like, we can't refund you. and it was close to like $8,000.
Okay.
Mind you, I just started Ads World. $8,000 was a lot of money.
Still is.
Yeah,
Like
no,
eight
for
G's
sure.
is eight G's,
For sure.
man. Yeah,
For sure.
right. Yeah. But when you're starting out, that
Before
that
you're
can
starting
put
out,
you
the
under.
thing,
It'll put you under.
Yeah. So I'm like, listen, I don't know what to do. Ended up having to talk to the vendor to try to figure something out, but the client walked away, and this is kind of when the contracts got really tight after that. From that day, I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to start selling billboards because I need to recoup that money, and I just want to actually do it right. And this is just cool. This is like what I like. Started doing one billboard, led to another and another and another. Then I added billboards into the business. So Ads World, that we currently have been doing for about 6 years, is a full service ad agency that we specialize in radio, TV, billboards, cinema, social media, brand development, and just anything that has to do with advertising.
Wow, man. Congratulations. I mean, to where you took it. What out of like all the radio, social media, billboards, TV, is there a certain percentage that kind of sways? Like, where are people spending money right now from a business perspective? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs
sure.
that are going to watch this and listen to this. Like, where do you see, call it 2023, you know, that we just finished right now? Like, was it 50% in one category? Where's kind of all the
2023
money
was an
moving?
interesting year. A lot of budgets were cut back just
Yeah.
because of inflation and just COVID. Like,
recession
coming back,
and-
you saw that.
yeah.
So it was still obviously more towards out of home, which is the billboard stuff. Radio would be second to that, and then TV, cinema, and all that would kind of fall right behind it. But it kind of just all depends on the industry. Restaurants do really well when it comes to social media and billboards and radio, versus let's say bigger brands do well with like cinema or like out of home. So it's very niche to the industry, but right now billboards are doing the best. It's also because the way I've marketed in the past years is to make it sexy and appealing.
Yeah.
People don't think billboards even existed. Or
So are you doing the ones that like the digital ones as
so
well?
I do both. I do
Okay.
static and digital.
Okay. Does one do better than the other?
Depends on your location. Yeah.
Got it.
So there's static locations that do better than digital locations, and there's
Yep.
digital locations that do better. Like Dundas Square is a massive staple in the city.
Yeah.
And it does great. It's great for optics.
How many do you have up there now? Like, is it
There's 1, 2, 3. There's like close to like 6 or 7 up there. Yeah.
Team was telling me that you, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you still have something up in Times Square, or you did have something up in Times
So
Square?
I've done campaigns at Times Square.
Okay.
Not for my personal brand.
Got
but
it.
I've done for other campaigns, but we've done, and again, we don't just do North America. We do all over the world. So
Okay.
hence why it's called Ads World, A to Z. So
Makes
we do
sense.
it worldwide. So we've done campaigns in the Middle East. We've done campaigns in Europe. We've done campaigns in the US. So
Now,
it's
you said location, and this is for my interest, and then hopefully people get value from it. So I'm very curious. When somebody's and sticking with billboards for a second, is it better to go to like a Yonge and Dundas where there's obviously a lot of people? That makes sense to me. That's quite basic, but there's also a lot of billboards there. So for me, as from a consumer perspective, like it all gets blurry to me. You know, we were just actually in Times Square, I don't know, a month ago or something like that, a month and a half ago, the team and I, for a talk we did there. And you're there, like, it's almost hard to see them all, like, you, right? And so then if you compare it to an area that, Yonge and Shepherd is still kind of busy, but let's say an area where you're the only billboard. Is there stats, and maybe there's not, but is there stats that say, well, you'll probably get more actual calls for the person to reach out? Because at the end of the day, that's the objective of an ad, is to get somebody to raise their hand and call you. Is one better than the other?
so digital at Dundas. If you're doing just a one-day campaign, it's just more for optics.
Oh, so you can do a one-day campaign with you guys. Got it. Oh,
You
so
can
it's
do-
not like a month or a
No.
year.
You can do one day at Dundas. You can even do an hour in Times Square.
Holy shit, I didn't know that. Okay.
So
Okay.
Canada doesn't really offer an hour yet. We haven't really got to that point, but the US offers hourly.
Okay.
They offer daily. There's some even locations that offer like half hour or like even one spot.
And that's why in Times Square, now that you mention it, I've seen like somebody coming out with an album, and it's really only there for like the hour or something.
It's
like
just
that.
for optics. That's all it is.
100%.
It's
You
just
get
for the
that-
optics.
you
Just
get
for the
that
picture, you
awareness.
post it on Instagram and
Fuck
you're
yes.
running it. And it
You're
looks
actually
like,
doing
wow.
it for the social.
That's what it is. And it's like, it's going to bait out a lot of the seed for a lot of these artists, but that's what it is. They'll be like, I get calls all the time. We're like, oh, well, we just want it to run once. I'm like,
Yes.
That's not how it works. It's
Right.
minimum a day.
Okay.
But going back to what you're saying about, okay, what works?
Location-wise, yeah.
Location-wise. So Dundas, again, if you're running a week campaign, 2-week campaign, sure, you're going to actually see your brand up. But for a day, it's just more for the optics. It's just for you launching something. Now, stat-wise, for a location that is maybe one ward versus Dundas, it would just kind of depend on the area, because some circulations of areas that are just like that one location probably will get you more circulation than at Dundas.
Right.
Dundas doesn't have it's not the most busiest intersection. Yonge and Eglinton's actually more busy than Dundas Square.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, in terms of foot traffic?
Foot traffic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and Dundas, obviously the screens are massive. So Dundas and Eglinton are the only screens that you can actually run videos on. Anything else in the city, you can't run video.
So even the ones like on the Gardner that
run
I see,
video.
you can't run video. It has to be stagnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's distraction.
Get it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then if you want to go more in depth, there's certain locations that they shut off after a period of time just because they're distracting to
The condo owners
condos
and
all
stuff
the
like
owners,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot to that.
There's a lot,
man.
yeah. There's a lot more. There's restrictions on certain boards. Like you can't, for example, the one at Dundas, it's on top of Shoppers. You can't technically advertise anything that's in the store, like competitors with it's in the store, whether it's like an energy drink, for example, or
Is that the one above Shoppers? Would that be above
the
like,
wrap
Eaton
around
Center?
one.
Oh, the okay.
The Eaton Center, it's right across the street from the Eaton Center.
Right across from the Eaton Center,
So
right.
it gets a little too intricate when you want to go in depth. Of,
Right.
Okay, you know what location and whatnot. Certain locations do better when it's sunny. Certain locations do better at night. So you want to make sure if you're doing a static buy, which is the traditional ones, you want to make sure that the board's on your right hand side versus on your left. So when people are driving, they don't have to go like this. They can just kind of see it in their vision.
Right.
You want to make sure that the billboard's illuminated. You want to make sure that, there's a lot of different components.
I want to jump to radio for a second
Sure.
because what I found with radio is that, and you're gonna obviously tell me if I'm right or wrong with this, is that not as many people are listening to live radio as
You'd be
much. And so-
surprised.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
so educate me
So
on
you'd
this.
be
my man.
surprised. Everyone thinks radio's dying.
Right.
And this was always something that my manager used to tell us. He's like, the record came in, radio was around. Tape came in, radio was around. CDs came in, radio was around. Streaming's in now, but radio's still around.
Podcasts are around and radio.
Radio's
okay.
still around.
Yeah.
Why? Because radio's free. What's in your car? Do you have a TV in your car? Well, nowadays, yeah. Most cars, yeah.
But most don't.
Most don't.
Yeah.
So TV's always there. Sorry, the radio's always there. So people are still listening. Plus, it depends on the station. These listeners are building relationships with the announcers. And there's obviously they want to call in to win tickets or all this. So there's like, when is the last time you're listening to a podcast that you can call in to win tickets? Maybe that's something you might have to do.
Right.
So,
Right.
You
gave me the
that's the idea.
the golden nugget to
You
use.
can sell some sponsorships and,
Yeah, exactly. Have you noticed though, like the cost of radio ads coming down?
It has.
Okay.
It has.
So that to me then, as a business owner, makes sense. That
It has.
I'm actually okay with that because
yeah, they brought the costs down, but the stats have gone up. Like Z103 is actually one of the top stations right now in their demo. I don't remember the exact demo that they have, but it changes every 13 weeks.
So we had a radio show for about 3 years on a year with News Talk 1010, and then for about 3 years with AM 640. It was a real estate talk show, and we ran it for a very long time. And it actually, what it did for us, because we were talking about educating people on real estate. We did get people to put up their hands and call us and say, look, I want to invest into real estate. I mean, we were back then paying 2014 to about 2017, 2013 to 2016, actually, to be exact. We had the show running for every week on Saturdays. It was about 250 grand for the year. Now, our ticket that we sell real estate is a big ticket.
Yeah.
But what it really did for us was help us with branding. Like it branded
legitimacy
and
too.
yes, man, it really built the authority for us, right? And so I've always looked at, okay, should we get back in from a real estate company perspective? I mean, obviously we have the podcast. We do a lot of, we do 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of content a day on all the platforms. So we're very heavily invested in that. But radio's always been kind of that, that ex-girlfriend that I'm always, thinking about. Not me personally, but other people obviously might be looking at the ex-girlfriend at times. And so and now I'm curious. That's why I was curious about, like, are they bringing the cost down? Which that, to me, again, makes sense as a business owner. If the viewership or the listenership has gone down, at least the cost is relative to
Cost has come down for a lot. Some of them are obviously still high because of the network and the demo that they have.
For sure.
Like 680 News is just pricey. But it just all depends on what you're trying to establish. And just, there's certain things that just work and certain things that don't. I kind of know that niche. I like traffic tags a lot. So traffic's brought to you by, whatever the business is. I think those are the ones that work the best. And I typically love to sell
Because
those.
everybody's waiting for that.
So the
Like
thing
they're
is,
waiting for the traffic.
so not even that. It's like people are listening to music. The announcer comes on. They're still listening. It's not
Yes.
in a blur of commercials.
Yeah.
So and like keep in mind, average attention span 3 to 5 seconds now.
Yeah.
It's probably even lower now.
Sure.
So the second that you come off the back end where it's like, okay, this song was Taylor Swift, whatever traffic's brought to you by, you still have them and it's 10 seconds. So they're not switching.
Yes.
And if they do switch, it's at the end of the commercial.
Yes.
So you're paying a fraction of that versus a commercial that's 30 seconds. That's going to be in mix with like 10 other commercials, and people are obviously going to tune out. This is the best way to get
Is
their
that
attention.
the most expensive?
Which
the
one?
traffic tag?
No, it's actually cheaper.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that is the arbitrage I was looking for to when
And a lot of people don't know that because they think, oh, well, commercials are just like you have to run
It's
30
better
seconds.
because it's 30 seconds long or 25 seconds or whatever it is.
Traffic's 10 seconds
Yeah.
and it's live. And typically the announcers never really make it 10 seconds. They're human. It's going to be 12 seconds, 13 seconds, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to take a breath. So
Yeah.
it's going to get a little longer and then
Do they say, just out of curiosity, like we're nerding out right now, so but do they say that twice? Like traffic brought to you by Jas Takhar?
traffic's brought to you by, let's say,
Yeah.
and then whatever, visit them at the website and that's it. And then
Okay.
depending on how much you buy, you could have 2 traffic tags in one afternoon part. And the best part about traffic tags is you're not running spots at 1 a.m. It's between 5 and 9 and 3 to 7.
By far the most listened to time, right?
So the traffic periods where people are in their car on their way to work or on their way home from work.
Okay.
So if you want something that's efficient and works, that's what works.
Going back to when you started the business, my man, because there's a lot of people who are also not entrepreneurs that listen, and I have a listenership that are investors, like real estate investors, and so they have day jobs. But when I'm speaking to them, I know like they have an itch. They have this itch that they just really want to scratch, like which is starting a business. They always had a passion for friggin' the Smurfs, or they had a passion for, sports, and they're like, oh, I might not be able to monetize it. I believe that in today's day and age with new media as well, podcasting content, you could monetize it later on, but it's the fear of starting a business. What would you tell somebody that's just thinking about possibly starting a business?
It's all about planning. I think planning is important. You definitely want to write down what your obviously goals are and where you want to go, and try to find a mentor that can help you, or just try to connect with someone who has experience. But ultimately, it just comes down to you just have to do it.
Did the small shit scare you, like accounting and like fucking P&Ls?
100%. Yeah, of course.
How did you get around that?
Luckily, I have my sister who helped me out with a lot of the stuff.
Shout out to sis. What's her name?
Nona.
Nona, what's up, Nona?
So she's the one who kind of helped me out with a lot of the stuff, and she still does. But you just got to do. You got to talk to the right people and focus on the main part of the business, and everything else will come. And you have to be passionate about it. If you're just doing it, again, that's going back to the transactional part. If you're just doing it for the money, don't do it.
Yeah, you had a passion for this, man.
Of course,
and
I
it made
still
it
do.
easy.
Yeah,
You still do.
100%, yeah.
I can tell. Well, I can tell because when I said we're nerding out on it, I really meant you were, which is true. Like, but that's like,
Like I can get into it. Yeah, all day.
you get what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, if you talk to my 2 boys about editing and software, like they just go jibber jibber jibber. Like they just keep going. Like you could tell that somebody's really passionate about it, right? It's me with sales. I like to get into the intricacies of what did you say on the phone call? Like I was asking you, like, hey, how did you say? Because maybe I can pick up on something, right? And you try to learn from each other. I hope people are catching the theme though of this conversation, but as well as so many others of people that have been on my pod where you said find a mentor. Yeah. And we talk about the fact that success leaves clues, right? And so you don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. Like, look, there's the 0.0000001% of the population will be the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, the Bill Gates of the world. Like these guys are just fucking geniuses. They came up with something, but that's why they're in the 0.00000 like 1% of population in history of the world.
Yeah.
You could also be like the other people, like our boy here, Nick. You saw me do it. You see so many others that have sat here and talked about, look, man, I just kind of figured out I found somebody that was doing it. I kind of latched on to them. Like I had a mentor who also passed away about 6 years ago now, who kind of taught me the ropes. It's funny when you said the Starbucks story, I was thinking about him because he also had like a specific, maybe it was just some older guys, man. Like they had some weird fucking tendencies or something. He also had like a drink at Starbucks. We just kind of knew, and I probably got him without any exaggeration over like 500 coffees I had to go get sent to. I actually told him when I met him, like, I'll work here for free. I'll clean your friggin' toilets. I don't care because I know you're the guy that I connect with, but I need to learn from you. So for everyone else, like whatever might be daunting, find the person that is doing what you want to do, and then just reverse engineer it. And you said something else as well, Nick, that I wanted to elaborate on. Like, you didn't really know the whole staircase. Like, you didn't really see the whole staircase. Yeah. You let it unfold over time. Sure. You didn't know accounting. All right, let me maybe get, check in with Nona. Maybe she knows what she's doing with it, right? I'm sure you've had 77 other things that probably happened in the last 6 months
100%.
that you didn't know, and you had to kind of figure it out, right?
Yeah, it's always a learning curve. So, and touching back on the whole mentor thing, I think a lot of people, they want to do things and they have mentors and they want to find mentors, but the biggest issue is ego. You got to put your ego aside. I get that, you think you know what you're doing, but you don't. Put your ego aside, listen, and just stop being so arrogant. So true. Just listen, because eventually you will get to that stage. And I was fortunate and lucky to have a mentor that was behind me and used to check up on me. And I used to always talk in his classes and guest speak. And when a lot of people were kind of hesitant of even saying, okay, well, you can't create an agency. Like, you don't know what you're doing. He was the one who kind of backed me. And he's like, listen, whatever it is, whoever you need to talk to, I'm behind you. And it's good to have someone like that in your corner. So,
and it's actually easier than most people think to find a mentor,
100%,
right? Like,
of course.
Someone like yourself, like you said it earlier, like you brought on interns as well. And obviously that was, I'm sure, a lot to do with the fact that you needed the help, but there's this part, like, you've been doing AdsWorld now 6 years. 6 years. 6 years. Like, you also want to give back now. Like, you kind of get to a place where you make the money, and it's great, and we need the money, and I understand, and it does, it does a lot. And I also get that it can't buy happiness, but I think a lot of people that say that, they haven't given it away enough. Like, I can tell you, I get a lot of happiness of giving away money. So there's that aspect.
I like to help people. Yeah, of course.
100%, right? And so if you're listening right now and thinking, well, how do I even find them? You shoot, like, it's easier now than it was even back in 2012. Like, I got my guy 2004 when I met Simon, and today in 2024, man, all you gotta do is shoot some private messages, shoot some DMs.
It's even easier now than it was before.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Now, the only thing that you have to be okay with is that you're gonna send possibly a guy like Nick a DM. He might not get to it, and he's not an asshole. For sure. It's just he didn't get to it. So you might need to send it out to 52 people to get that one person to say yes. Sure. But that's that one time, And I just heard, I think it was Rick Ross who just came into my fucking, maybe it's your beard that's inspiring me to say Rick Ross, but I think it was him who just came into my feed and said, hey man, it doesn't matter about the 57 failures. You just need to hit once. And it's so true, right? Like, you probably have done other things. We just didn't get into it, all of it, but you failed in some ways, but then fucking AdWords is hitting now.
That's it. So, no, I agree. Like, my photographer who's on our team, who does all of our stuff, he reached out to me because I used to have a real estate marketing company. We used to do virtual tours and all that stuff during the pandemic. And he reached out to me and he's like, listen, I'd love to work with you guys. He ended up doing a couple things that he was so good that I'm like, okay, we're going to bring you on. And he's been growing with me, and anything that I do, he does with me. And he just loves the fact that he reached out to me, because if he didn't reach out, we would have never met.
That's awesome.
And he's solid. And yeah, that's.
Look, I mean, I don't know what it is about Bo today. I'm picking on him. But I hired both of these guys pretty much, I don't know, a week apart or something like that, or maybe the same time. And Bo came into the interview, and I really, really liked him, right? But I was just looking for a different dynamic on my team. Yeah. But what he did definitely is changing the course of, like, not only my business, but my life, because I really love this guy as a younger brother, right? And Clyde, yes, you too, don't worry. But Bo, what he did was different, is that I didn't follow up with him. I didn't, like, Clyde, I knew. I was like, okay, he's going to fit what I'm looking for. But he followed up and he said, Jas, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to get anyone like me. Just try me out.
He put his ego aside.
Put his fucking ego aside.
That's it. And
yesterday he probably brought it back. No, I'm playing.
And that's the issue. A lot of people have egos.
100%.
They think they're the best at as it is, and it's like, cool, you're the best. But
look, I actually think you mastered something when you realize how much more you have to learn.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like, sure. And so it's like always putting that ego aside. You talked about your team, like, so in terms of your content, like your specific social medias and stuff like that, do you have an in-house team now? Like, what's your makeup in that sense?
In terms of content, obviously it's my videographer, photographer guy who kind of helps with that.
Full time?
Yeah, he's full time.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously myself. Like if I think of an idea that's fun or just seeing like something, I'll just do it myself.
just shoot it yourself, yeah.
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 So that's the
I tell
what it
these
is.
guys all the time. I don't really need them. It's like
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah, of
That's why. But
course.
I have this beautiful device
Yeah.
called an iPhone that can do.
In terms of content, I should be putting out more, but
Yeah.
I just get so busy with everything else that I don't have the time. And I kind of got to be careful as to what I post because there are a lot of new corporate clients that come on board, and I need to find that fair balance between what to
Are you
post.
allowed to share the corporate clients' names? I don't want to put
Yeah,
you on the spot,
of
but who
course.
do you have? Like, who do you have coming
Of course.
up?
I've worked with HP in the past. I'm working with Mercedes-Benz right now. There's a couple watch brands that we're in terms of working with. Citizen.
I love it.
There's a couple festivals we're working with. So we work with a lot of people, and it's just providing value. It's just relationships. A lot of the guys that are working at these big businesses, I've known them for years, and they've kind of entered these roles. And yeah.
What's next for Adwell and Nick personally?
Azril, the next play is to hopefully set up some billboards in the city personally, and have ownership on them.
So, what's the process like that? So, are you buying like the real estate there?
So
Like,
for
how does
ex-
that work?
so
I
for
know
ex-
it's not like physical real
So
estate. Like,
getting permits and all that, it's really hard nowadays. But
so, would your competition in that world be, and excuse my ignorance around it, but would it be like the Pattersons of the world?
Addison, Bell, Rogers,
Okay.
Outfront, Alvision, those are the guys.
Viacom is Viacom still in that? No,
no, those guys.
That's not the
Yeah,
name. Okay,
yeah.
so you're looking to get.
So looking to work with real estate developers, owners, whatever
Got
the
it.
case may be, and just create new assets that fit in today's standards of life. For example, condos, they have beautiful potential to set up billboards inside the actual condos or even on the outside of the condos, and nobody really does it.
Yeah.
Because obviously think of like a 50-story condo, you can set up a billboard on literally the outside of the units. You can generate revenue for the building.
Yep.
And you can just do it while you're getting the permits and everything else. So why are they not doing it? So
Are people pushing back on it just because the aesthetics around
Yes.
it? Is that the answer? Like, is
yeah,
it the
there's-
aesthetics?
Yeah. For example, there's one at 401 in Leslie that just went up,
Okay.
right where the IKEA is.
Yeah.
That was petitioned to not go up. It just went up. People don't like the aesthetics. People don't like the fact that
Is it on the
it's-
balcony of the units? Like where would that be
No,
placed?
this one right now is right on the highway.
Okay.
So right in front of the IKEA.
Yes.
It's massive. It just went up like a couple weeks
The
ago.
condo did.
No, the actual billboard did.
The billboard.
Yeah, the billboard
Okay,
did.
okay.
But the owners of the condo don't like it because it obstructs your view.
Right.
And then, it's too bright. But keep in mind, billboards, if you look at it straight ahead, sure, you can see it. But if you go to an angle, you can't see that board. It doesn't affect you.
Right.
So it's more in depth. It's not just like a screen where you can look at it from every angle. These things are all like professionally built.
yeah.
But a lot of people just don't like it. Just aesthetics. They don't want more ads. They're against it. So permits are really hard to get up nowadays. So the next play would be to like locations that are a little bit more up north that don't have digital. Maybe look into doing something like that and working out some sort of profit share with landlords.
And then who's your target market right now? That somebody who's listening right now, is it and you can answer that, whatever kind of best suits you, but like, is it somebody who has a budget of X? Is it small business owners? Is it large corporations? Like who's kind of your target
we work
market?
with everyone. We don't
Okay.
necessarily discriminate.
I like that.
So if you have a budget of $1,000, we'll obviously work with you. If you have a budget of 100,000, we'll work with you. We'll obviously guide you to figure out what makes the most sense. Just because you have $1,000 doesn't mean I want to have you spend it.
Right.
If it doesn't make sense at that moment and I don't see any value, I won't tell you not to spend it. So I'm not here just to collect like a quick buck. I actually want to make sure it works. I've had clients who've reached out to me with tens of thousands of dollars to budget, but it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I turn them down. And I say, listen, this is not what you need to do. You need to come back in a few more months and spend that same money once you have X, Y, Z put together. So there's no point of advertising if you have no website, you have no logo, no social media, but you just want to do it because it's fun.
Right.
So
Doesn't make sense.
that's why I do like a whole needs analysis to make sure, okay, you know what, this is what they have, this is what
Yeah.
their goals are. Are we doing advertising for sales or are we doing advertising for branding? And
Big difference.
there's a difference.
What is your thoughts on that? Like, what's your take on that in
think-
terms of the difference? Because not everybody understands it.
So that's first question, and a lot of people need to ask that, and a lot of people need to understand that what's the goal behind this. I think there's a lot of businesses out there that want to advertise just for sales right off the bat, but they have no brand. So why are we going into this right off the bat expecting a sale to come from it when nobody even knows who you are? So some people understand that, which is great, and I love it. It's refreshing, but it's almost like you have to educate people who don't, and you have to explain to them, okay, you know what, I need you to get your brand out there first. People need to get accustomed to what this is. They need to realize, okay, you know, I've seen this guy in multiple areas. You know, his business has been there, his face has been up on these billboards, or I've seen him on the radio commercials or whatever, TV commercials, whatever the case may be. Okay, now let's go into the whole sales side of things.
Yeah.
But that's
And the sale becomes easier.
of course. You don't feel pushed.
Exactly.
It's very organic, natural. It's like, okay, you know what, I'm looking for a real estate agent. Instead of saying call me, put up a picture of you, you know, saying don't call me.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
people are like, oh shit, like, you know, this guy told me not to call him, but let me call him.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the stuff that works. And it goes back to what a successful campaign is. It's not just about the location, it's about what the creative is.
Right.
We've done creatives where, like, we work with a Portuguese restaurant right now, and we did a creative where we purposely made a mistake on their billboard.
Okay.
BlogTO, we were trying to get an article on BlogTO. Funny enough, they wouldn't take us. They wanted to charge us a ridiculous amount of money. So I said, okay, you know, we have a billboard right now. Why don't we make a mistake on this billboard? Happens that one of the editors saw it, and they wrote a whole article about us saying these guys made a
They suck.
They suck. They made a mistake. We're getting Google reviews. This. Engagement went up. The restaurant's getting busy that week. The owner's like, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
Works.
But good, you know, kudos to the owner that was allowing you
course.
to try that, because
sure.
not a lot of people do, right?
for sure.
And was it sorry, you said spelling mistake?
It was a spelling. It was like literally you said best Portuguese chicken, period.
Yeah.
And then we put a dot at the end of the period. Apparently, grammatically, you know, she didn't like
I
it.
didn't even know that.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, and then they were making a whole thing where like we gave away 500 sandwiches at Dundas Square once because we were trying to get Kyle Lowry to stay on the Raps.
Yeah, my boys were
Yeah.
telling me about that. So what was going on with that?
So Kyle Lowry was about to get traded.
Okay.
So we literally put up a billboard at Dundas saying, if you stay, you'll get free chicken for life.
Yeah.
And again, we're getting hate comments. Oh, people can't afford to eat, but you're giving away free chicken. We're like, listen, we're giving away free chicken. Come by. And then there's videos of like me running around giving chicken sandwiches, and BlogTO wrote about it, CTV wrote about it, CP24, all this publicity, and we didn't have
Which is great.
which is great, but we didn't have to pay for anything. And his restaurant was getting busy, and everybody started to figure it out. And all it costed him was a billboard and some chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
So you got to get creative and just do things that just work. Putting up a generic billboard it's cool, but
It's old school now
Yeah.
too. How you dealing with like the hate and all that kind of stuff? That like, how do you deal with it? I think we all have our own ways.
100%,
Some
yeah.
people are not. And,
so I try to make it into comedy. I get obviously a lot of hate on the Azrael page about like, oh, well, this doesn't work. Or like, you know, I'll put like funny ads up and
Yeah.
they'll just, you know, they'll talk shit. And I'll just reply back with like, you know, a smile.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, I'll say
so you're trying to kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
That's kind of your
That's-
approach.
yeah,
I like that.
that's-
I'm very
That's how
similar
I
in
do
that
it. Or I
sense.
just I don't swear back. I don't
Yeah.
cuss at them. Not at all, because I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, no, you just gotta
You got some thick skin around it.
yeah, you gotta have fun with it. So
100%, my
that's
man.
it. I have more stuff that I'm dealing with. A comment's not gonna hurt me. so.
Exactly, especially from somebody that doesn't really know you.
Yeah,
You know
so-
what I mean? Like agents ask me all the time, like, how do you deal with that shit that you get on social sometimes? I'm like, the person doesn't know me.
Of course.
Like, I don't really care. Like, I
make
do
it-
have a problem. Like, if Clyde or Bo said something, well, that would be hurtful, because to me, it's like, shit, you know me and you're still saying that? Fucking, you know, Paul _ 3752X in his basement. I could
But
care
I'll reply,
less.
I'll
you know
reply
what I
to
mean?
the videos and I'll make.
I
it a
always
joke.
do, man.
Yeah,
I always do. I actually try to reply. I actually reply back with the video.
Yeah, those
Most
are
of
the
the
best.
time, I do cross out
they
their
feel
name.
stupid.
100%.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says anything.
No.
And actually, I shouldn't say that. 'Cause
Sometimes they will.
You know what? The first, it was literally happened 2-3 weeks ago. The guy replied back and said, "Jas, fair enough." I actually replied back to him. I was like, fuck, man, like, kudos to you, bro. Like, you actually, you know,
Yeah.
you let me give more context to what I was saying, because in a minute video, I can't get it all in, you know, or my team's gonna clip something. Like, sometimes we miss something.
For sure.
You know what I mean? You can't give it all
The
context.
best is when you reply and they reply back and you just keep going, and then you're just going and going and going, and then it comes to a point where they just give up.
Yeah, there's not really much that they can say.
Yeah.
Nick, my man, I want you to know that I really appreciate your time, but B, I want you to win, man. And so, you know, off air, just let me know. And in the future, it doesn't need to be the second, obviously, how I can possibly bring you value, what connections I can put, and maybe open up my Rolodex. Maybe there's someone in there, maybe there's not. But other than that, man, I really do, again, appreciate you doing this with me, man. Thank you so much
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
it, brother.
Thank you.
If you found that episode valuable and you want to watch more of the Jas Takhar podcast, click here. If you want to see more videos in general, click here.